Would it be fair to say that you, Chad, Lori, Melanie, Alex, Zulema, you six were kind of a close group of friends, kind of a tight-knit family in a way?
Yes.
And was it always religious talk?
Pretty much, I would say so.
She's lost her mind. I don't know how else to say it. We're LDS. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a God, and remember the 144,000. Jesus is coming next year.
God knows it, and I will never deny it. For my soul would be at stake if I did.
And I kind of hung out at the house with Lori, and she started talking about all these books that she's been reading, Chad Daybell books.
What I see is from Brigham City to Santaquin, it's like a special plate of land that will never be destroyed. Nothing bad will ever happen in that stretch of land.
Chad, though, was obviously well respected.
Oh, he was idolized.
Instead of listening to the radio or music, it would be a Julie Rowe podcast.
I am both a truth seeker and a truth speaker.
Colors are energy. It's all energy. And as you open your mind, you realize everything is energy. And there's an interplay between your energy and whatever you put on your body, and it can actually talk to you. Inanimate objects that's not a thing. Rocks talk. They have spirit. The carpet can talk. The walls can talk.
Or I forgot his name, maybe Mike Stroud had a podcast.
Someday in the future, you're going to receive something called the fullness of the Melchizedek priesthood. Women can also be a part of the 144,000 and will be. And women become queens and priestesses. Go into the internet. Google that up. Bring it up. Do some research.
I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I can do it with my priesthood, with my power. She does priesthood blessings. She does.
Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, called 911 to report he had just killed Charles Vallo.
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
Like, hi neighbor, sorry.
With Tylee, if she was asked to toe the line to keep everyone out of prison.
Like, Tylee went to BYU, and she goes, yeah, but she gave me this really creepy look.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was creepy. It was like, yes, she's dead, really, and, you know, that kind of look.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what to think about it at the time. I was like,
I thought the kids were in danger. I thought there was something, dark and sinister going on. I was afraid.
It was building up to this for years. This is not a single thing. It was like, this is just the top of the pyramid.
I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Today I want to talk about the group of people surrounding Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, particularly the religious group, the religious beliefs, who knew what. After going through these recent documents that have come out and seeing certain people's involvement that I did not expect, I decided I wanted to make a video about that aspect of this case. So that's what this is. Okay, obviously you read the title. I want to thank my subscribers. I feel like it's been a while since I thanked you guys. I'm sorry. Thank you. Settle in. Okay, this is going to be a long, weird journey down the rabbit hole. Do you expect anything less from me? I hope not. Let us begin. There's an online movement brewing. This movement is an intersection of various different groups. The basis of it, which is the LDS Mormon Church, but this is not an official group. It's a secret group within that group.
Why do you think they were so secretive?
When you go to church in the temple, there's certain questions they ask you to see if your belief systems are consistent with the doctrine, and they were inconsistent, and so that's the reason you're going to be secret about it. If that got out, people would think you were unusual or weird in the church, right? And then they would say, hey, I don't think that you're allowed to go into the temple because of these teachings, so you're going to keep that secret, right?
Then there's this other element, which is they're also doomsday preppers, meaning they think the end times are near and they need to prepare. Then there is the third element, which is New Age spirituality. This is the part that makes it a secret because it is belief in sort of energy work, multiple lives.
We started talking about some of these belief systems, the multiple lives ideas, all raised in the LDS Church, all sort of pushing the envelope on what we could learn and keep our membership in the church.
Certain things like pendulums.
He had a necklace that he would pull out, and I watched him do this. He would ask questions. Were you born in the 18th century or something? There's a certain sway that is a yes answer. There's a different sway that's a no answer.
So this group of New Age Doomsday Prepper LDS Mormons are online on forums like ldsavow.com, pathwaytozion.com, and these forums have a select few that are visionaries. These people have these visionary abilities because of near-death experiences.
Who is Sean Little Bear?
Sean Little Bear did a 3-hour interview with somebody named Lauren Matthias, podcast Hidden True Crime. Sean Little Bear is claiming a lot of shit.
They explained that they were, spiritually gifted. They had, Chad had near-death experiences.
As you know, I've had a couple near-death experiences, and I'll talk about that. And it seems like I've been waiting for 20 years for something to happen. I write all these novels, and people are like, when's it going to start,
Julie had, predicted things and whatever.
The kids are safe. I have nothing to do with it. I don't know where they are. I have talked to their spirits.
One of the lies that keeps going around is the first podcast I did where I said that the kids were safe and Chad was innocent. My gifts had not advanced to the point at that point that I could tell that was in spirit realm. If you cannot recognize me as a true messenger, you do not recognize your God. Armageddon will happen in my lifetime, and I will be there to help kick their asses. I've learned by several sources that I'm crazy. Your mother in heaven is angry. She talks to me daily. How dare you judge me? In fact, I dare you to judge me, because with what judgment you judge me, so shall you be judged. Judge away, for tomorrow you die. I expect empathy and kindness to me and everybody else on this planet. And if we can't have that, then let this world burn. I cut all strings, cords, negative attachments, bonds, binds, curse energy. I cut all apron strings, including all umbilical cords. I cut them. I own my energy. I take back my power. I am ready to walk with the gods. I call upon all those within the sound of my voice to gird up your loins, gather your strength, because the Mormons are tied into the Masons. The Masons are tied into Illuminati. The Illuminati threatens me every day. The Luciferians can do all that they can in their power today, but the day will come they will rue. R-U-E. Look it up. And to those that are just coming on, that would like to get on the crazy train with me, I would like to welcome you home soon. And for those in different dimensions, we have escorts ready and willing to be able to get through to those portals safely. If you want to become a follower, a true follower, subscribe to my channel.
On Avow in particular, and Avow stands for Another Voice of Warning, Chad Daybell is a very prominent member. He's a well-known member. He's had an account for a very long time, and he's friends with the owner, Christopher Parrott. I have a thing that happened between me and Christopher Parrott where he banned me from Avow after I made my video, and then I had the nerve to ask him why he banned me in an email, which was so stupid. And then he responded with no words but just the rules that state that you're not supposed to share what's in the forum publicly. So I really had nothing to say after that, and I just kind of was like, okay. There were other people on Avow as well. Zulema Pastenis allegedly has an account there called Z-Tops, and Julie Rowe. Julie Rowe was actually a very well-known member as well before she got banned from Avow, like me. Let's fast forward to the year of our Lord 2014. In 2014, Julie and Chad start talking on Avow.
He first contacted me online on a website, a prepper website called Avow, Another Voice of Warning, in February, I think it was February of 2014.
And it is during this conversation where Chad approaches Julie, he offers to publish her books, because Chad, not only is he a below average author, he's also a publisher. He actually publishes his own books through his own publishing company. So he offers to publish Julie's books, she agrees, and so begins their relationship.
We didn't meet in person until July of 2014, when I met he and his wife Tammy and their children. I knew him very well. In fact, we talked on the phone every day while we were writing that book. He cried to me several times about it. I cried with him.
Although Chad's books are, you know, painful to read, I tried, and I managed to finish 2 and some of a 3rd one, and then I tapped out. However, they were actually very, very popular in this niche of LDS, doomsday prepper, New Age visions. You know, that group loved his books. He's kind of a local celebrity within that scene, and now Julie is becoming that too. I found this post on Julie's blog about a apparent media frenzy that occurred in 2015. Chad wrote this post in 2016. Here is the actual post. Basically, I can link it down below if you want to read the whole thing. It's pretty lengthy. The quick little rundown is Julie Rowe's book, A Greater Tomorrow, was very, very successful. Successful. And then there was a second book that was even more popular, and so she kind of became known on that scene the way that Chad was known. That triggered a response or a memo from the official LDS church where they kind of denounced her, or at least I'll just read you what the actual memo said. Publication caution, A Greater Tomorrow, My Journey Beyond the Veil. This was released by the LDS Seminary and Institutes Department August 31st, 2015, and they say, in 2014, Spring Creek Book Company published A Greater Tomorrow, My Journey Beyond the Veil by Julie Rowe. Although Sister Rowe is an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, her book is not endorsed by the church and should not be recommended to students or used as a resource in teaching them. The experiences she shares are her own personal experiences and do not necessarily reflect church doctrine, or they may distort church doctrine. The Daily Mail, Associated Press, other media outlets picked it up, and Chad is kind of like, they misunderstood her, this was so fake news, la la la.
When the media stuff happened to me in 2014, 15, and 16 with a lot of bad press, Chad was right there by my side every day.
Chad and Julie are kind of like these cool, edgy, rebellious visionaries, you know, they know the real truth. And this is where we get our first inkling of what is to come. It's now 2017, and one of Chad's authors that his company publishes her books, she writes him a letter basically saying she doesn't want to work with him anymore, that his teachings are bad and they will lead to, quote, death and sorrow. I will read you that email. On Friday, June 2nd, 2017 at 10:22 a.m., Suzanne Freeman wrote, Hi Chad, I was wondering if it was at all possible for you to give me the rights of the books. I understand you're busy, but I've paid you off last fall and I haven't seen any royalties. I have had a deep respect for you and have thought that you are following the spirit, but in the past few years I think that deception has crept in. I do not agree with what you are publishing. I have come to the understanding that what you are publishing is false. I understand that you don't agree and you might just think I'm being spiteful or jealous in some way. That is further from the truth. But in the end, truth will prevail, and the truth of all things will be shown to those who are true and faithful. I know without a shadow of a doubt what blank you are preaching will not lead to happiness. It will lead to death and sorrow. The call out will not happen in the manner blank others have said they dreamed about. I feel sorry for those who have been caught up in all those lies. I have never said anything publicly about how I feel, nor will I ever do so. I have no plans of republishing my books. I just want to live my life. Maybe in the future I will do something with them. So please send me what you owe me and the rights back. This is my address. Thanks, Susan. He responds 2 days later in the evening, 5 p.m.-ish, and he says, Hi, Susie. Thanks for your email. I'm sorry that you have bitter feelings toward me, and I apologize for that was my impression. Horrible. impression of him. I apologize for offending you. I consider you a close friend, and it has been a privilege to publish your books, but I will grant your request to return your rights. And then he just goes on to talk about the specifics of that. You see, you have to understand that what this group is preparing for is something called the call out. That the elders and leaders of the LDS church were going to come out one day and call out.
Some random Sunday, the bishop's going to come into Priesthood Relief Society and ask anybody who has their food storage to come join in another meeting. And he's going to say, it's time, we've been called out to go wherever, and you need to bring your food storage to the church. They'll load it up on trucks, and then you leave.
And they're going to create these tent cities, aka white camps.
People have their large canvas tents. We cashed out retirement at one point to buy that and more.
Wait, hold on. You and your husband.
Yes.
So, no, you don't have to laugh.
I'm laughing because of the absurdity of it now. Yeah. I'd never seen so many people that believed in this idea of tent cities. If you say tent cities and somebody knows what you mean, it's like you instantly connect and, oh my gosh, cool, you're into this.
And Julie Rowe, there's this weird tape of her, which many of you may have heard, where she is calling out.
In the forefront, the grass is green, nails are painted, toes are pedicured, manicure is on the rise. Mountains in heaven are soon to come, and our language is effective. Think quick, think fast, catch the ball, you're up, and matter is, matter does. Here's the deal. Creatively thinking, creatively writing, creatively securing. Time to call out. You're on the call list. We're going up. Step it up, my friend. It's a matter of time.
In that phone call, Julie mentions Hector, and she mentions Pathway to Zion, as well as other weird stuff.
And it's really just getting back to you about your ramp situation. You can contact Lane to come let you know. Cybersecurity is on task, secure. We are on lockdown. And it's just a matter of time before we're going to be in the prayer for Pathway to Heaven, Pathway to Zion, and Independence Day. Dr. Hector will keep you know who he is and let you know where we are and things. Let him know I can sing because I haven't wrapped the loop yet, and he doesn't need the boat trip. The call is coming, the grass is green, and there's on the horizon. Today is Wednesday the 23rd, the 22nd. Gonna fly out now on the 23rd, go take the touchdown to the home run, and clear the bases on Friday.
Hector Sosa Jr. is another part of this group.
Hector has been someone in the news that has seemed to really stand by Chad. Even after the bodies were found, he said innocent until proven guilty. Can you give any light on that at all?
I would say Hector just has his own views.
Okay.
I don't know what they are.
Okay.
He owns the website Pathway to Zion, which he shut it down now after all the drama came out. But he owned that. That was a website kind of like Avow. And he also had a username and an account on Avow. And he was a well-known member. He had visions. He would speak. He was friends with Chad. He was on the podcast. He was one of those special people that was leading. Around this time, Chad is using his gifts to run these family history things on people. He's got a pendulum and, you know, his portal, and he's getting these messages and he's telling them like, you're Jesus's best friend and you're the Virgin Mary's cousin and you guys were married in a past life and it's an eternal marriage and spiritual wifery, and it's okay for that you guys are, you know, married to other people right now. That's okay. They would understand if they saw what we see. The Lord wants you guys to be together. This is a holy matrimony. And this is where we get what I call a sanctified swingers club or cult.
You know, David and Melanie are spending awful lot of time together. Melanie was, you know, flying Legionnaire just back and forth like you wouldn't believe, just to be up here with David. There were others that were there that were doing the exact same thing. They would meet somebody at one of the conferences, take a shine to them, and then they would be gone. They would disappear. We'd be like, where's so-and-so? Oh, they had to leave. I'd be like, well, I saw them getting in the car with somebody. What is all this, you know, going on behind the scenes?
Right.
And, you know, there was some stuff that went on behind the scenes that I don't think people really know. that I just, I was finding out about them. Most of the people that showed up were not men. They were women of all ages.
Mm-hmm. Flattering the women, would you say?
Oh yeah, he was into grooming and all of that stuff.
The YouTube channel Hidden True Crime, she has done amazing interviews, including another one with Girl on Fire, who was like a follower of Julie Rowe, and they all spoke about this.
There was one meeting that Chad was a part of, and it had to do with some of the wives of these men. 10 women were there. Their husbands were, in these meetings with Julie. And so that was just getting around on Avow. But yeah, he was doing this, and he had a lot of similar gifts that Julie does with near-death experiences and visions and stuff like that. Yeah, Eric Smith lives there, and that's how we met him. Joel lives over there, Joel Gervine. We met him there. Then the intergroup preparing a people events happened in Idaho. A lot of those people showed up.
And you guys attended those?
Yeah, we did. And there was a lot of people there. There was a lot of people there.
The Rexburg Tabernacle, and I think the Rexburg Tabernacle holds like 2,000 people, and it was full both times we went.
This is an LDS community overall.
Yes, we're talking over 90% LDS. Yes.
Uh-huh. And then you go in from that even, and there's the inner groups.
You were in that group.
We were in that group.
Were we?
You were running our website stuff for a while.
I had helped on her blog somewhat when I lived in Vernal.
I was a bodyguard at one of her events.
Paul was a bodyguard at one of her events. Problem with a lot of these men, Chad, Joel, and other people, they didn't have daytime jobs to keep them busy. Their wives were working, but most of the time what they did was with other women. In July or August or September of 2018, that is the turning point for all hell breaking loose. I had started learning about certain different methods. I'm learning about foot zoning, essential oils, energy work. It starts out really tame. It's a lot of really basic information on this is how you can muscle test to know if you have trapped emotions inside of you that you can release. So we go to the energy conference. Joel was acting weird towards me. And that was the first time I started noticing that he was like starting to make advances towards me. Joel said he was learning how to do foot zoning. And I was like, oh, I like to do foot zoning. And so he's like, well, sometime can I be able to come over and help you and Paul do it? And I was like, okay. Like as he's learning, experiment. Good. I was like, okay. And then when he got to my feet, I felt again how I felt in that energy conference. Like I was under some hypnotic state, and he was looking at me differently. Like I could just sense it and feel it. And then he texted me the next day and was just like, hey, how you doing from it? And I'm like, I definitely felt some different things. So he came over that night and shared with us that on his way over, he had received a revelation about me and that I was such and such person that had lived at a different time. And I was involved in a love triangle in that story. And he wouldn't leave me alone. Like he would continue to keep texting me throughout that whole week. And just, I love you. I love you. We are eternal companions. We're supposed to be together. We're supposed to create worlds together. And it was so scary because in my head, it's like I was having things put in me to think that I was. And at the end of that week, like it just got crazy. So I told Paul, and that day sucked. Let's just say it was a horrible day for both of us. A lot of these teachings came from Eric Smith because he was known in the group as a very insightful.
He was Isaiah in a previous life.
He was Isaiah.
So he's very doctrinally sound,
yes.
quote unquote.
When we're talking about sharing spiritually, sharing spouses, are we talking about right now in our mortal?
They were practicing it, let's just say that. And that was where this was headed, right? With Joel, that's why he was grooming me. That's where this was headed. And I do know that some of the wives were having emotional affairs with other men in this group. So the women were doing it too.
Was Julie having affairs with other men then?
I don't have proof of it, so I'm not going to say yes or no. However, I do know very men were in love with her. I can tell you at least a handful of other couples that have gotten divorced, They did have affairs. Obviously, people died.
They justified with mental gymnastics and religion, cheating on each other. And the other part that is very dangerous is that they would have visions that the spouse who was in the way, who wasn't married to, Jesus's cousin, that they would die.
Another pattern that happens with these people is that we noticed a lot of their spouses were supposed to die.
Joel's?
Yeah, absolutely. Joel told me that his wife was supposed to. This doctrine was so dangerous, and the way they were going about it was just like it was just another normal, everyday conversation.
I was also told my husband's going to pass away, now my ex-husband. They never told me when. I still believe he will.
This is the beginning of that thought process that would end up justifying what Lori and Chad and Alex and all of them, the others, did. The next element that comes in here is the specialness. You are not just Joe Schmo. You are Jesus's best friend or his cousin or brother or uncle, whatever. They're very important biblical figures that happen to be the past lives that these people had. So they're already feeling special. Now they add another layer. They say, hey, you know how the world is ending? You are one of the 144,000. Did you know that? Well, the pendulum says that you are. Melanie Gibb talks about this, the prepper pride.
So we're like a prideful group of preppers, you know that?
Oh,
like
yeah.
We're so prideful. Like we think, well, if everybody doesn't know what we know, then they're asleep and they're just, look at them. And so we just judge, and judge.
One of the feelings that I did want to share to many people listening is that there are many people other than Chad that believe these teachings of many lives or multiple probations within our own church or either close groups that are affiliated. And I want you to decide, as people that believe this, does having this information make you a better person? Does it make you loyal to your spouse? Does it make you feel like you're better than other people?
The next thing that comes in is trust levels. In order to know if somebody was worthy of knowing certain things or being allowed to be privy to teachings, they had to kind of gauge how trustworthy they were. This is according to that statement we have from Ian Pulowski talking about stuff. He mentions that. I think this is really important to keep in mind as we go through, because you're going to see how certain people earn trust levels and then are told certain things, but I'm getting ahead of myself. By this time in 2017, Julie, Chad, other visionaries, Mike Stroud, these people are known. They are really making a name for themselves. They have followers, and one of those followers is none other than Lori Vallow.
Lori does not lack for confidence. She was bold enough to get up on stage.
I have a wonderful husband, Joseph, at home, who is watching our two beautiful children, Colby, who's 7, and Tylee, who is 1.
Okay, sounds like you have a nice life there.
We do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife and a good worker. Being all those things together is not easy. I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
My whole life, everything hurt my feelings. I was totally sweet and innocent, and I was like, why would you ask me to fight this life and be this warrior? Why did you send me here? You know my personality. You know I hate to fight. I will avoid a fight at all costs. And he gave me a premortal memory of me. And I got to see myself as a warrior fighting for the Savior. I went to other worlds and I fought, and I was one of his strongest warriors. And I saw it. I was not sweet, and I was not innocent. I am old. I have fought. I've fought in this war for millennia. And that's who I am. And I came down here to be a warrior and fight. And I am sweet. I am a sweet person. Don't ask my husband, but I am.
You'll be okay without your mama. You are going to get a padded room.
While Julie and Chad are working together, publishing books, doing podcasts, Lori is listening to those podcasts and reading those books. At this time, Lori is still married to Charles Vallo, and her nephew, Zach Cox, is living with them. And he talks about witnessing this shift and change in who she was following and what she was doing and the things she was starting to say and believe.
Chad Daybell books, Julie Rowe's podcast, Mike Stroud had a podcast, a lot of really religious outside of the church podcast. She was always listening to something. She was telling us that she never had to eat again, never had to go to the bathroom. There's always an evil spirit that's screaming in your face. She'd be at the temple for about 8 hours a day, like a full-time job. And I think on Thursdays, she actually did work at the temple.
A few months after all this is taking place in 2017, who dies? Her third husband, who she hates, Joseph Ryan, Tylee Ryan's dad. She said she was going to murder him, actually.
I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him, like the scriptures say, like Nephi killed it, just to stop the pain. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things, like if he comes against you once, if he comes against you twice, if he comes against you 3 times, then you can kill him. It says it in the scriptures in the Book of Mormon. I was like,
this recording was made just months after he died. Months after he died, she's talking about how she wanted to murder him. His cause of death is ruled as natural, that he had a heart attack, but there are some suspicious things about the death. I have a video about it, all the suspicious things about it. I'll link it below. When he died, there was a financial benefit that was given to her daughter Tylee, who was a minor, so Lori was actually in charge of that money. The next thing that happens after her husband dies is his sister, Annie Cushing, comes to visit. And she says that at this time, Lori is talking about crazy things. She is saying that she wants to drive off a cliff with her children and just end the whole thing because she's so afraid of the end times. This gives you another idea of where her head was at this time. In this year of 2018 is where things start to heat up. After Joseph Ryan dies, Lori meets Melanie Gibb.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori. Tylee, her daughter, picks up the bat and tries to defend herself or hit him or whatever. She doesn't like him anyway. And she doesn't like anybody.
Do you feel like Melanie knew more about what was going on?
About the behind the scenes? Yeah. I think she knew a lot more.
They meet in church in Arizona and they hit it off immediately because they both love the Lord. They both are already into these kind of beliefs, these Chad Daybell books and the podcasts and all that. They're already into it. So it becomes an instant connection and they start getting into the scene together. Melanie Gibb would become ordained. She was one of the 144,000. Lori told her so.
Who, me? Right. So first you have that feeling of, I don't feel like that's something, because I didn't get that personally from God, you know? So I thought it was unusual. So she kind of had to keep talking me into it. That makes sense. Like, you really are. You need to believe this, you know? And with much enthusiasm.
She also had a husband that she ended up leaving, David Warwick, who is another one of these visionaries. He also does these podcasts for preparing a people, and he's part of that scene too. She hooks up with him. So it's kind of like groupie, like I get groupie vibes from Lori and Melanie, like they want to get with the visionary guys or something. I don't know. That's just my conspiracy.
Well, Melanie wanted a way to get in to the group.
Melanie Gibb.
Yeah. She wanted a way in and she didn't have anything. She was like, oh, I want to be part of it. And she cried.
Really?
We were like, if you want to get to know what this is all about, then you either got to get to know the scriptures really well and tell a part from your angle, or you got to write a book about something.
When was she crying? With you at home with Brandon, or?
Yeah, that was right when we all first got together and first met. She wanted to be a part of something so bad, and she wasn't. She was just an audience member. The next conference or two later, and she said, hey, I'm writing a book. It's called Feel the Fire.
Her and Lori begin their mission. Now remember the trust level thing I was talking about? Melanie Gibb was very trustworthy.
And I was like, hey, do you think that's a bit extreme? Like, are you sure you're supposed to do that? She goes, Melanie, the Spirit's telling me exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'd say, you know. Because I think my friends are good. She's seen Jesus, you know. I'm really believing that she really saw these things, you know.
Right. She did lie for Lori. She went to the police department with Lori to talk bad about Charles.
Have you called him to ask him if he'd bring your stuff back?
Well, he talked to her about it, so.
And what was?
Yeah, I said, would you be willing to give me the purse for Lori? You know, and he goes, no, unless she does this, and you know, and all these.
Don't speak in generalities. I want
sorry.
specifics.
She lied about having JJ when she didn't.
Then I get a phone call from the police. Of course, I ignore it.
Interestingly enough, according to Melanie Gibb, she was there the day before Charles Vallo was shot, and Lori told her to leave because like something was about to go down. She really only turned on Lori when she felt like Lori turned on her by saying that JJ was with her when he was supposed to be with Kate.
So I said, hey, Alex, I said, do I want to know what happened to JJ? And he says, no, you don't want to know. I went, what?
Oh my goodness.
And she goes, I told Lori she should have never got you involved in this. I'm like, yeah, she should have never got me involved. That was not smart.
The other thing that Melanie Gibb did is she talked about getting rid of JJ with Lori Vallow. She said that he wasn't her kid anyway. He was a drug baby.
She says, I'm just going to give him back to Kay, the grandmother. And I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. Then you guys can move on with your missions. Just, you know, just tell her to take Kate. You think she'll take JJ? I mean, he's a lot of work. Do you think she'll take, you know, no, yeah, I'm hoping so. I'll just have to make something up. I said, well, you know, tell her you're sick or something and that you just have some illness and that you're not able to watch after him. So, you know, she said, hey, he's a handful. And so, and plus it's not her kid anyway, right? She adopted him from Kay's family.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh.
As a baby. She had him as a baby. Yeah, he was a drug baby.
That's a little background on Melanie Gibb. So now we get to the point where Lori and Chad meet in the fall of 2018. At this point, Lori is drinking the Kool-Aid, the Gatorade, the lemonade. She believes all of this stuff. She goes to Chad's book signing, and when she meets him, he pulls her to the side. They talk, and he is so smooth. He tells her, we were married in a past life. And as I said, she's already all in with the beliefs. So she's like, right, we're totally married. This is the beginning of their affair. From this point on, things start to happen so quickly. I'm gonna need you guys to pay attention. Less than a month after Chad and Lori meet, there is a recording that is made of Lori in Melanie Gibb's house giving a testimony to a group of people.
I feel like I love Melanie. I just love her. I'll just start by saying that I am a personal witness of the resurrected Jesus Christ. I am his advocate and I am his friend, and he is with me. I know him. I have been ministered to by the angel Moroni. I have seen him. I have had lots of angelic ministry with people who wake me up 4 o'clock in the morning and tell me things to do. I no longer need to sleep. And Satan had been torturing me since I was a little kid. So I've had that my whole life. I hate computers. I'm just of the generation, I'm 45. I do not like computers. They're not my friend. So I need angels to come and type in this stuff for me. I went upstairs to take a bath. I came back down. 9 names were in my inbox, ready to print, ready to take to the temple. They typed their names in. It was a miracle. And then after I've had this washing over of the Lord, who gave me all of his complete love, all of his peace, which is not of this world. He washed all of that away for me. And then he sent me on a mission. The time is now. The Lord is gathering his people. He is calling people to the 144,000. They're already being called. They're already being sent on their missions. They're already going full circle. The time is now. He is coming. He is preparing us. And we promised we would do it. Like Melanie said, if you're here and this is resonating to you, it's because you are a warrior. You were a warrior before this. You would not be here in this room. You would not be awake if you were not a warrior in the life before this. I am an advocate for the women. I have had an experience with my Heavenly Mother. She was a warrior, and we are her line, and her priesthood power is here. And it is going to be back on the earth in fullness. In fullness, the priesthood power, the women and the men together, they are side by side. They are equal in power and glory. Equal. For we, the women, we do not come here to become like Father, like you, like Thor. We're here to be like Mother, because we are like unto our Mother, who is all powerful.
So a week after this recording, Chad emails Lori. In this email, he says, the subject reads, "Here are the family documents you requested." In it, he declares that Charles Vallo, Brandon Boudreaux, and Joseph Ryan are all dark. This sets off the mission to kill Charles Vallo. A few days after this email, Lori and Zulema start texting. Enter into the scene Zulema Ruth Pastenes. She tells Lori that she was told by God that she is to protect Lori.
And I have this deep connection with people, and I'm able to connect with them in a very short period of time. All individuals that are upon the earth, that have been upon the earth, and that will be upon the earth are part of this as well. And they have this light within them, a higher self, a spirit that came directly from Source.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, we're all Source. Oh, yeah. Children. Oh, we're children. Thank you, Jesus.
There's nothing I like more than the scripture in Malachi. And they talk about the refiner's fire, okay? And, of course, as I was telling you, I think deep about these things. Like, okay, what does that mean, the refiner's fire, okay? So they're talking about the refiner of silver. The silver has a lot of impurities in it. You get the picture? We have impurities.
Zulema Pastenes has been ordained by Chad as one of the 144,000. In January of 2019, she tells Lori that she has a vision she could create storms and fire and will have the eye of the Lord.
By myself, I have no power. I don't have that, the power of the ocean, let's say. But if I am part of the ocean and I am in the ocean, then I am very powerful.
And then there's also that Ian Pulowski statement where he talks about Zulema and Alex were preparing earthquakes, and that their gifts were that they were able to bring to pass the signs of the second coming, which is storms, earthquakes, all that. Zulema, her trust level is high. She is Lori's future sister-in-law. She would end up marrying demon seed Alex Cox, who would end up shooting Charles, killing the kids, and trying to kill a bunch of other people too. Zulema is also in the same ward as Melanie Gibb.
Anyway, so I go down to Arizona, and her brother's down there, just down the street from me, because he's marrying my friend who's in my ward. Her name's Zulema. So I call Zulema and I'm like, "Hey, Zulema, like, what did Alex say? I'm getting a bad feeling. I'm not sure what to think about this." And she goes, "Well, I don't." She just told me what her testimony was of Chad and how he gave her a blessing, made her also part of the 144,000, and said she was translated too, and then said she basically started having visions after this. Okay,
Yeah.
so she had a testimony of Chad that he was a real visionary, and so anyway, so I said, "Well, what did Alex tell you? What happened?" And she said, "Well, all he said to me was, you don't want to know." No. He said, they won't be able to be found. He won't be able to be found. And she had just married him. And because, that Chad and Laura were like, "Get married, hurry, you're part of the 145,000, you need to get married. My brother Alex, you need to marry him." And so they got married quickly.
She's an LDS member, and she is really into the New Age kind of part of that scene. She is an emotion code practitioner. This is a I looked into it. It's a school of thought, is I guess a way to say it.
Started thinking about Dr. Bradley Nelson. Do you know who he is? The guy that does emotion code. He started it.
I don't like him, but go ahead.
Yes. Well, good. Because
I do not like him.
Think about this. Dr. Bradley Nelson wanted to heal 10 years, I believe he said, in a conference that I happened to be at. He was like, 10 years I went to the Lord. I want to heal. I want to heal. I want to heal. And the Lord finally waited. Well, so this is where the Lord comes in. He's like, oh, here comes the counterfeit.
Right.
And they opened the door to the doctrines of devils.
Yep.
But it's this guy who came up with this concept of the emotion code and energy healing, and there are things like foot zoning and muscle testing, and some people will call it pseudoscience, ways of releasing energy and this and that, whatever. You believe in it, you don't believe in it, doesn't really matter. Zulema was an emotion code practitioner. She was certified, as was Julie Rowe. In November, Chad and Lori are having a full-blown affair, and by full-blown affair, I mean that when Charles was out of town in November, Chad came to attend a Preparing a People conference that was in Mesa, Arizona, and he stayed at Lori's house. Speaking of Preparing a People, let's talk about Mike and Nancy James. Mike and Nancy are a married couple who own Color My Media. Color My Media is a media company that is behind the podcasts and conferences that are known as Preparing a People. There is a account, Color My Media, that is on Avow, and they would always publish and promote information about Preparing a People conferences. Other people who attended would give little brief synopses and notes about what they saw at the conference, and Chad Daybell said this, and Melanie Gibb said that, whatever. So this was all connected. Mike and Nancy James were huge supporters of Chad Daybell. They were followers of his, like in the literal sense, meaning when he moved to Idaho, they followed him and moved to Idaho. Sean Littlebear was also very, very close to Mike and Nancy, and when they created this Preparing a People podcast, the first episode featured Chad Daybell. The second episode featured Sean Littlebear. The third episode of Preparing a People podcast featured David Warwick. Melanie Gibb was on another episode of Preparing a People. She was known as Little Miss Sunshine. All we have are descriptions of the podcast, but we can't actually hear them. Then we hear from Sean Littlebear.
When Mike and Nancy came in, and I met them at a different conference, Mike was really liking Julie Rowe. Nancy said, if you're going to invite Julie Rowe, then I'm going to invite Chad Daybell.
Now, Chad spoke at the Preparing a People conferences. I spoke at one for a half an hour. Sean spoke that afternoon. And I can tell you this much, Sean, you were so boring, I didn't even stick around to hear you. Now, one thing I did hear that Sean Littlebear said that is true is that Mike James wanted me to do Preparing a People and Nancy James did not. I know this to be true because the Lord himself told me this, showed me this. Mike and Nancy James talk shit on me. And I took it as a compliment. You know why? Because the Lord himself told me to stay away from Preparing a People conferences. I did not know what Chad Daybell was up to. I knew he was making lists, that he believed in multiple probations. So do I. I don't believe in his stupid ass chart that he did. He tried to show me those several times. There's also some bitches from Arizona that are very jealous of me.
Melanie wanted to be the group leader for Arizona.
Okay, and to clarify, who were all these people? Was it Jason Mao speaking, Hector Sosa?
Oh, no, Jason didn't come along till right at the very end.
In addition to Melanie wanting to be a part of the scene, Lori was extremely immersed in this scene at this time. So Melanie and Lori decide to start a podcast. They start their Time to Warrior Up podcast. The first episode is published on December 5th, 2018. Jason Mao's there. Thor Furseth is part of it as well.
You know, I met Thor down there. Thor lived just, blocks away from Melanie.
They all live very close to each other, some in the same ward and same area. These are members, people that Lori has mentioned in that body cam footage.
Just like
our good friend,
just like right in front of me on the side of the road, and I'm like, that looks like Jason. I'm like, hold on, that's Jason. He's a police guy.
His story is really incredible.
It is an incredible story. It took him 3 years to walk again, but the police department said it was a pre-existing addiction and wouldn't pay for it.
Pre-existing.
Yeah, sorry.
So
Yeah.
But now he's walking to a fight. You're sitting there in your police car, and as he pulls off on a hot summer day to go chase this bad guy, and then you don't go to work with these not attached. You get to walk like her.
She's like, oh, I don't have my phone. I don't have my people's phone numbers like Thor.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put Jason and Thor and all our people. Yeah, our friends.
Now here is where we reach a tipping point. Something major is alleged to have happened. Julie Rowe says that Chad SA'd her.
And the time that you knew Chad Daybell, did he ever hit on you?
Yes, it's one of the hardest things I have ever experienced in my life. And I feel extremely betrayed by Chad.
Did Chad Daybell think you were one of his past wives too?
Yes. He also told me that he thought he was married to Melanie Gibb.
At this point, Julie's out and Lori's in.
I told him, Chad, why haven't you returned my calls? Because quite frankly, this year, since 2019, we texted in January and February. He stood me up for meetings in January and February, and I was angry at him.
January 2019, Chad sends Lori another email, a very fateful email. The subject of this email is a demon with a name, Nick Schneider. And this email is where Chad tells Lori that Mr. Schneider is a demon who has taken over Charles Vallow's body and is using it to violate her. Lori goes and tells Charles Vallow this.
She tells him, which is stupid. She says, I'm going to destroy you. She's like, you are not Charles anymore. You are Ned. I forgot his last name. Schneider. So yeah, she's already telling him this stuff, which is not smart.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, not smart. She should have kept that information to herself.
And Charles asks for help repeatedly.
I just stood there and didn't know what to say to him, and then he hugged me and he was crying, and I was like, now look, I look back now and go, oh my gosh. Anyway.
You're LDS?
Yes.
She thinks she's married to Moroni in the past. This is her
You think she's what?
Was married to Moroni at the top of the temple.
Angel
Moroni.
LDS. Angel.
They don't let me in there.
Probation. Says I'm Nick Schneider. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I can do it. I'm back there with my priesthood, with my power. She does priesthood blessings. She does.
So here's the deal. Ultimately, there's two sides to the story, and
a lot of times it's not going to be long.
I know. Hang on. A lot of times when we contact the other half of one of these things, they're totally rational.
I'll tell her she's going. I'll tell her he's going to go.
Just want to be careful not to deny her access to her child.
So how does she pose a threat to your children?
I don't know what she's going to do with them. I don't know if she's going to flee with them. She's going to hurt them.
Okay, but she didn't make a direct threat towards the kids.
No, not a direct threat.
Okay. And then she said that she would murder you through a spiritual...
No, she said, I can murder you.
I can murder you. And she's talking in a spirit...
I will kill you.
Spiritual...
No, she's talking physically. I will kill you because you're not Charles, and nobody will care.
Okay. So she at this point doesn't think you are her husband?
She thinks I'm Nick Schneider.
Who's Nick Schneider?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's the name she used. I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
I'm just like, I'm as bewildered as you are.
Lori goes to the police that same day with Melanie Gibb and Tylee, and they give a whole different story.
Lori? Officer Tylee, contact us. There's the interview room.
Hello.
My friend who is a police officer told me to file a report.
Okay.
But I just left with the kids because I didn't want them in all the drama. Yeah.
I don't see you being a danger to yourself or anybody else. You got your kids to school.
Right.
Seems to be believed by police, and she kind of gets out of it relatively unscathed. She has to do an evaluation, but supposedly she passes it. And Charles Vallow is left to his own devices. Just 1 week after that body cam footage, Lori texts Zulema telling her that Charles was blocking her gifts, and from this point forward there's specific conversation to cause harm to Charles Vallow. Now during this time, Lori has gone missing. So Charles files for divorce because he can't find her, he can't reach her, but shortly thereafter he takes it back, and then she shows back up, and this is when they start the literal physical plan to kill him. By June 22nd, according to the affidavit, it says that Alex Cox entered the conversation regarding Charles Vallow. You see Zulema seeming to have some hesitancy. On the 27th of June, she tells Lori, do you think there's a way to change hip loss to the light? Remember, that's Charles Vallow.
1 Paul 18, subject that's been shot. He's right here in the living room. Firearm's gonna be in the front door, in the front bedroom, laying on the ground next to a case.
Present. 1, 2, 3, 4 shots, something like that.
Charles is the husband of the occupants here.
And we know from the affidavit that Melanie Gibb and Zulema, who we know have cooperated with police, the police said that they had known that his spirit was possessed. They were told he was already dead, and they were actively praying for his death. So if he does die, and they've been praying for his death, you think they would be like, hallelujah, thank you God for answering our prayers. There's that pool party where there's a lot of people that night celebrating. I wonder who was there. Was it Zulema, Melanie Gibb, Melanie Pulowski? I don't know, but there seemed to be a lot of people who were celebrating his death. Now here is the part that is interesting regarding who could be involved in this group. Because according to the affidavit, there is a text message to a Julie saying, right, I'm just happy it's over. I don't know exactly who that is. I'm speculating, my conspiracy alleged tells me that it's Julie Rowe, but I don't know for sure.
I do know that Lori Vallow's second husband was abusive. She was estranged from his family because she was associating with, quite frankly, a higher vibration group.
She says also she had visions that he was supposed to die too. So was Julie somehow praying for Charles to die too, or aware of it, or down with it, or I don't know. Very strange. Maybe it's not even that Julie. I don't know if this is just bad taste or something more sinister, but on July 18th, a week to the day after Charles is shot dead, Melanie Gibb sends an email out inviting people to that very home where Charles Vallo was killed just a week later for David Warwick to speak, her boyfriend slash person she's having an affair with. Chad Daybell also attends. I don't know. 2 days before Tylee is killed, Lori and Melanie publish a podcast. The title is What is a Baptism of Fire? The description for the podcast reads, following up on their first Feel the Fire podcast, Melanie and Lori share what their baptism of fire was like with insightful references that an ancient wise man, Nephi, spoke about. How did it help Melanie in her own life with a special needs son, with feeling like she didn't know how to navigate her challenges, and what it took for her to experience that clean feeling in her heart? Lori is so descriptive with ways that fire can feel to all of us and how that has manifested in her life. She speaks from great conviction and experience that we can all learn from. And the next day after this podcast went live was Tylee Ryan's last day. That is the day her uncle Alex and her mother Lori took her to Yellowstone, smiled in her face only to betray her and stab her in the back, kill her literally that night next day. They dismember her, they bury her in Chad Daybell's property. So less than 10 days after Tylee is killed, Melanie Gibb publishes her book, Feel the Fire. And 2 days after Melanie Gibb publishes Feel the Fire, she goes to Rexburg. Now by this point, according to Melanie Gibb, she has already heard Lori reference Tylee as a zombie over the phone. She hears Lori say that Tylee's being a zombie because she doesn't want to take care of JJ, and she hears Tylee say, "Not me, Mom." So she's already aware of the zombie thing, and we know what happens to zombies.
JJ's there, and she tells me he's a zombie now.
Oh my goodness.
And so was Tylee.
Oh no.
And so, yeah, so people that are zombies, they don't end up staying alive. You should probably see the pattern here.
And she asks about Tylee.
I see that Tylee is not there. And I said, hey, you know, Tylee's, I mentioned again, like, Tylee went to BYU. And she goes, yeah. But she gave me this really creepy look.
Oh.
Yeah, it was creepy. It was like, yes, she's dead, really. And, you know, that kind of look.
Yeah.
Like, I think, yeah, almost that kind of look. But then I didn't know what to think about it at the time. I was like,
All this zombie talk, and Melanie is still fine. She's feeling the fire. She's fine. So now they got the kids out of the way, but they need that money because when they killed Charles, they didn't get the life insurance money. So they start setting their sights on someone else with a life insurance policy. Enter into the scene Melanie Boudreau and Brandon Boudreau. Melanie is Lori Vallow's niece. She has also joined this cult. Brandon is her husband. They've been married for a while. They have 4 children, and he has $1 million life insurance policy. Melanie had filed for divorce from Brandon, but then she withdrew it when she found out that you can't get a payout from the life insurance policy if your husband dies while a divorce is pending. So Brandon is next on the chopping block. On October 1st, Lori rents a storage unit in Idaho. She goes in there with Chad. They put a tire and a back seat. Those items belong to a Jeep that Tylee Ryan owned when she was alive. That Jeep is the very Jeep that will be driven by somebody who shoots at Brandon Boudreau in Arizona. Brandon Boudreau says this person is Alex Cox, Lori's brother. Thankfully, Alex Cox is a lousy shot, so he shoots and misses, and the whole attempt fails. So what do? They set their sights on Tammy Daybell, not before increasing her life insurance policy payout. Then, Alex Cox tries to shoot at Tammy, but since he's a lousy shot, he misses again.
You're despicable.
10 days after he misses, Tammy mysteriously dies. According to Chad, she died in her sleep. She was coughing. The story changes a little bit.
Tammy died in her sleep at 2 a.m. Chad woke up and found her on the floor. He called 911 and he was calm. This is what I'm hearing. Now, anybody that knows Chad knows he's calm, and anybody that knows Chad knows he's visionary, and he saw it coming. Tammy can spirit split, so she's come to visit me in spirit before. And she's missing her kids and her husband, but she knows the plan, and she's on board on the other side of the veil. I'm going strictly on what my angels say, Eric.
Right.
And my visuals, my hearing gifts, and my visuals that I have. I can tell you this much. The plan is rolling forward. Truth will be revealed and darkness will be exposed.
Great. That's very comforting.
Once they get that life insurance money, they go to Hawaii, him and Lori, and they get married. Once Tammy is gone, Lori sends for Melanie. Literally 4 days after Tammy's death, the apartment that Melanie would stay in Rexburg, right next to Lori, gets taken off the market. A private investigator hired by Brandon Boudreau catches Melanie and Alex leaving in the dark of night. They leave the kids' stuff all on the side of the road, the kids' clothes, toys, beds, and they just take her stuff in a U-Haul and go to Idaho. Shortly after Melanie gets to Idaho, she meets Ian Pulowski. Ian Pulowski, may you run for the hills and never look back.
Melanie's in a cult, Lori's in a cult, Chad's a cult leader. They tried to kill me, they killed Charles, there was this whole plot. And I'm hearing this and I'm going, holy crap, what did I get myself into? I want this to be over with, basically. So my whole purpose is, you know, I went and I shared with the FBI everything that I heard, everything I was afraid of. You know, I think, you know, at that point, I thought the kids were in danger. I thought there was something, you know, dark and sinister going on. I was afraid.
Ian is the reason why we know a lot of what we know. He says that Melanie Pulowski told him the kids were zombies. Sometimes kids just go dark. How she believed these things, the zombies, the Malachite. And this is when the house of cards starts to crumble. Once the cops come to do that welfare check, we know that Lori and Chad flee. They go to Hawaii. Melanie and Alex go to Vegas, marry Ian and Zulema, take their names. Very innocent behavior.
Now, were Alex and Zulema married? Did you guys have a joint wedding or was that separate?
So Alex and Zulema had been dating for several months, and kind of Alex, you know, the coincidence of us picking the day right after them wasn't planned or anything. It was just what happened, and Alex and Zulema just were there as our witnesses.
Their plans were all out of whack because they weren't expecting this to happen, because according to Zulema's daughter, Zulema was supposed to go there and join them as well and marry Alex, and they were all supposed to be there. However, when this whole thing happened, they all came to her, which Again, looks suspicious. On the other hand, Melanie Gibb is in a very different situation because when this welfare check happened, she got thrown under the bus.
Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Oh.
The infamous recording where she calls Lori a core whore.
And I said, "You're a core whore." "You call me a core whore? You're saying I did this because of carnal desires?" I said, "Yes, you and maybe us both, hun, that you are very carnal." Because she has a very high libido, so I knew she's carnal.
And Lori says, "You're recording this call, you're acting different," and that's the end of their relationship.
Yeah, man, I did not hold back. It was like a 20-minute conversation.
Wow.
I recorded it and I sent it to the police. And I was like, you just know for my record, I didn't have the kid, you know what I mean?
As a result of this call, Tammy's body is exhumed, and then, mysteriously, Alex Cox gets very sick while he's at Zulema's house.
Who is behind the quote-unquote mysterious death of Lori's brother? I don't know. He could have died of natural consequences. He could have had suicide. He could have had somebody poison his food. But I know this, it wasn't Lori, and it wasn't Chad. They're not behind any of those deaths.
He also gets a phone call from Chad, who prays over him and gives him a blessing as he's dying, which he does. According to the police report, it says, "Zulema asked me why she was being questioned and if she was considered a suspect in the death of her husband." After Alex dies, a few months go by, Lori gets arrested, a few months go by, the remains of the children are found on Chad Daybell's property. And this is where you see a shift. All these people in this religious group on these forums that were defending Chad and Lori, that were saying that this is just something you guys don't understand, it's bigger than this, blah, all that, they were like, oh, the remains of the children were found on his property. Damn. After the remains were found, Melanie Gibb pens a 7-page letter to Avow, where she talks to all these people, and she becomes the teacher in the situation and tells them, I've been deceived, let me teach you now. I don't really know what's left of these beliefs and teachings. Some people say this is still going on. I would love to know what you guys think about the religious aspect to this case, because not everybody who believed this went on a killing spree, or maybe it's a combination of both and it was just a recipe for disaster, which is where I'm leaning. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Don't join a cult.
I think that's all.